Hey, everybody. I'm Mike, and this is Not Your Mother's Day Fantasy League podcast, which is still a mouthful. Uh, it is week one of the NFL season. Of course, as always, I'm joined by our esteemed analyst, Dave Buck. How we doing, Dave?
Doing pretty good, Mike. I'm ready for this season to kick off. A lot of anticipation, a lot of work has gone into this league. A little bit of one big change from last year. We now have an NFC. So we added 16 new owners. They kicked me out of the AFC. I'm over in the NFC now. But I'm coming back with my perspective of the AFC. Got a lot of friends, a lot of competitors over there, so I got a little feel for the AFC, and I'll put my 2 cents worth in. I'm sure nobody will like it or appreciate it, but hey, I'm going to speak it.
Well, I appreciate you being able to or willing to do the research on all of the AFC teams because it's enough to do the research on your side of the fence. But of course, now the AFC commissioner, so you're still, of course, very involved in what's going on our side of the fence. But that doubles your research, so definitely appreciate your willingness to continue doing this.
Well, for right now, I will say I do have a little bit more knowledge of the AFC because I know the owners a little bit better than what I do with the NFC. I got
Mm-hmm.
15 other NFC owners that are kind of wild cards. I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to play out. What kind of
Sure.
moves they're going to make during the year. Are they going to be traders? Are they going to be sellers? Are they going to be sit on their hands and stuff like that? So got a little bit of intro with or
Mm-hmm.
information on the AFC just from spending the last 2 years with them. So still good guys over
Well,
there.
right out of the gate, I will say that NFC was definitely not sitting on their hands. Those picks were flying back and forth at first.
They have no idea of the value of those draft picks, and they're just throwing them out like cheap cards, throwing them anywhere. First means nothing. Sixth or seventh doesn't mean anything. Hell, I got
Uh-huh.
picks. I got taxi claims coming everywhere. So I'll draft a guy, and we trade a guy. We cut a guy. Can I cut a guy we just drafted?
Mm-hmm.
It was wild.
It has been wild for sure. It's been a wild off season.
Yes.
I will say, just for those that are tuning in or maybe tuning in for the first time, you can type comments into the chat. We will be able to see those, and we can answer any questions that you may have. You can also watch this later and see what people are typing in. So, um, we are going to get this thing started because we don't
Yes.
like to run it too long because there's a football game to watch, and that's way more exciting.
So so we're just going to break down the AFC. We're going to do a power ranking. We'll probably take them from 16 down to one. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to find out who the better team is, you're going to have to stick around. Sorry about that. I do want to put a disclaimer on there. Um,
Please.
there's going to be 16 of you that don't like the rankings. You're not going to like where you are. Even if you're number one, you're not going to like that bullseye on the back of your back. Just how we see it, just how we're throwing it out there. You don't like it, come on the show and talk to us about it.
Mhm.
You guys are always welcome to come and join us, which I do want to bring up. Mike, we will be back here next week, Monday night,
Mhm.
7 o'clock, doing a recap of the week's games and talking about that Monday night matchup to see if there's anything that's going to change in the balance with upcoming MDFL schedule and
Mhm.
stuff like that, the first week of competition. So come and join
I
us
like
next week also.
I like the timing of that show. We get to talk about the matchups and how those Monday night games are actually could potentially affect
Yes.
the win-loss column in those games. It's always kind of interesting how that timing works out. But yeah, to Dave's point, I'll just reiterate: I've never claimed to be the most knowledgeable fantasy football player of all time. I do my research, not as much as some, but more than others, and I try to be objective. So, you know, some people, yeah, are not going to like their ranking, but I'm mostly it's based off of your players. Some of this is based off of past success. Some guys just keep winning, and that's a factor in my power rankings, as Dave and I both agreed on. So there you go. Kind of our rhyme and reason that went into this. But we are going to start with number 16. Dave, I'll let you go first on each one of these. And I'll just kind of pull up these teams as we go, looking at my own roster there behind the scenes. So there you go. Dave, why don't you start us off with your
I'll, I'll,
number
I'll start
16?
us off. I had to rearrange some stuff after I did
Yes.
some more looking today, a little bit more looking in some depth of some of the transactions and who some of the players that were drafted and who spent money in auctions and stuff like that. So I did have to rearrange some stuff. I see some good things at the bottom, but I'll start off with number 16. Sometimes he's our other co-host. He's not here. I put 16 as the Colts.
Mm.
Sorry, Jason. I just, you had two picks on the whole draft last year. You had 215 and the 504. You picked up Dory Mitchell and JD Bertrand. Those were your only two picks in the whole draft. Your big expense or your big auction signing of the year was Camille Mack. And I looked a little bit into the future, and I think your first 4 or 5 picks are given away in 2025. Dude, you got to get younger. You got to keep some picks. You got to get some good players coming in there. I started you off at 16, and I'm sorry, but somebody's got to be 16, and that's who I'm picking tonight.
Yeah. And he has been the recipient of the plate in the past. So there is kind of some past, I don't want to say successes or failures.
Yep.
There's some history that we can draw from. And Dave, we talked about how there's really like 3 tiers to this.
Yes.
There's a top 3 or 4. There's everybody else, and then there's a bottom 4.
3 or
That's
4.
about the 3 or 4. That's about the only thing that kind of stood out. But differentiating the teams in those tiers is very difficult. Yeah, I will just talk more about his teams when I pick him. I did not put him at 16. Um, I put the Texans at 16. Um, I I think the only reason I did put Jason above the Texans is because there is a chance that Anthony Richardson is healthy for the whole season. And if so, I guarantee you he gives much better production than Deshaun Watson has at any point he's had that Cleveland Browns uniform on. Because I'm sorry that he doesn't have it anymore. I still don't expect much from Deshaun Watson, but I do think Anthony Richardson has a super high ceiling and could absolutely improve his team if he's healthy. Um, um, so I also think the Texans have improved since he inherited this team. It is
Yes.
worth noting he is the second owner of this team. He did not draft it, and it has gotten better. So I want to give him that credit. Still some work to do, though. So unfortunately, the Texans are my 16.
Fair enough. Flip it back over to number 15 now. And this one's a tough one for me because I see this team is much improved, but he's also still number 15, and that's Gavin's Ravens. Have Gavin's Ravens in at 15, and Gavin has picked number 1 and number 2 in each of the last 2 years. He picked up Gibbs 2 years ago. This year he's got Harrison Jr. He's putting a team together, and it's looking good. Okay, he's got Derrick Henry on a huge salary, almost $40 million.
Massive.
That's huge. But I like where he's going. I want to see Gavin, make some more changes throughout the year and improve this team, and get out of that bottom 4. But there's still a lot of there's a lot of improvement here, just not enough to move him up a whole lot more. But I should probably have him higher than what he is right now, but that's where he ended up being. So for me, it was at 15.
Yeah, I mean, I helped him out by giving him Lamar Jackson last year, so that's a bonus. And he's got some good young players on here. The defense is a bit rough, but he's got some good young offensive players that could start to change things around for him. So I'm with you there. All right, my number 15 is the Colts. So I had him one step above the Texans. Again, my justification being if, as I'm trying to sloppily find these teams, if AR is healthy, he should score more points for this team.
Yep.
Um, don't love these backs at all. The wide receivers are a bit rough. He's still got a lot of work to do. But I can see Richardson helping him out. The best news for him going into next year is that he will no longer be obligated to pay Deshaun Watson that awful $22 million contract. I'm sorry, buddy, he's not it, and he hasn't been since he's been a
He's going to
Brown.
free up some cap space, and hopefully he'll spend it wisely on multiple good players, and not just one or two of them. And hopefully they're not Indianapolis guys either. So he needs to try to stay away from his homeboy picks. So
I do like Mitchell's skill set. I think he could do some things for the Colts. It'll be interesting to see how Richardson spreads the ball around. Old Gardner is a very much a one target kind of guy. Doesn't spread it out quite as much.
so
All right,
all
number
right. Well,
14.
number 14, I put as the Raiders. I looked at the Raiders. First of all, I got to tip the cap. We were talking about this team last year, and they had $80-some million worth of dead cap. So they've
Those
cut
are
that
running
down.
joke every week.
Yep. So they cut it down to 20 million. You know, just this past week, we just went from Aaron walked away from that team. Matt from the Bears is going to take over that team. When I look at this team, again, this is an improved team. His wide receiver core is like, holy shit, dude. You've got like all these top receivers for the last couple of years. You got more than what you can play.
Yeah.
So a big depth group there in the wide receivers. Still had a lot of holes filling out the roster and stuff like that. But again, this is an improved team. Matt's got some work to do with it now. He's going to probably have $20 million worth of salary cap coming off if he does his new owner amnesty changes correctly. So this is a good building team, but right now I've got the Raiders in at 14.
Mm-hmm. I do too. The Raiders are my 14. So also props to Matt for kind of taking over this team. There's a discussion about whether that was the right move, but you guys were in a pinch. The season was about to start. And I can only imagine not only being a commissioner and having your own team and having to set lineups for a second team. That's a load. That's a workload. So I'm glad we were able to we already had a team that had two managers, and he was able to step in and take this team over.
I really like that approach. When Mike and Matt took over the Bears, they were kind of both soft about it, but they were all learn it. They both wanted to learn it at the same time. They didn't want individual teams at the time, which was really good. So it set Matt up to, the bad part is he probably saw the wild side of the NFC, and now he's going to be plunged into the AFC, which is a little bit more stable than what the draft and the auctions have happened for the last 6 months over in the NFC. So that'll be an eye opener for him. So he can talk about that later sometime.
Yeah, there's some good young talent here, but yeah, again, what do you do when you have this many wide receivers? At some point there is such a thing as too much depth. You can only start 5 of those guys. So
and they're rookies, so you really don't know which one are going to be wide receiver ones right now. So we may look at this team 3 years, 2-3 years down the line, and it's like, holy cow, he knew what he was doing. So
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some options available in that roster. And he did pick up Jordan Brooks at 15 mil. He was on my team last year, and it would have cost me almost 18 to franchise tag him. So that is decent value compared to what I was forced to have to pay him to keep him.
Well, he also picked up Roquan Smith, just under 20 million. Outstanding linebacker to match up with Brooks there too. So that was a good pickup. He did spend a lot of money for Stephon Diggs. in the auction draft. I'm not sure why he needed Diggs when he's got all that wide receiver core right there. But
Yeah.
potentially there's some trade bait there.
Yeah. So it's going to be better than it has been recently for sure. And this defense isn't bad, especially not only the two pickups you mentioned, but Kyle Hamilton sitting down there. Um, so there you go. That's our 14. Let's go to your 13.
My 13, I had the Texans. And I looked at Josh, and he had added Hawkinson, and his 103 was a Dunze out of the draft. Again, kudos for Josh taking over the team. It's a better team than what he had 2 years ago. That's what I liked about the bottom four. They seem to be trending upward, whereas before they just were down there. So I see these four as much more competitive than what they were a year ago. So, and unfortunately, somebody's got to be in the bottom four. So.
I agree with that. I think all three of the teams that we've talked about so far, should be improved over recent years. That 3-year Josh Jacobs deal is a bit rough considering he's within the next year or two. I think he's, on the outside looking in of his prime, but it's still a better running back option than he has had prior. So,
so who'd you have at 13?
My 13 is where I've got the Ravens. So we agree that there is a bottom four. Gavin, same thing. His team's better than it was last year. He's got a bona fide MVP quarterback. He's got Marvin Harrison, which was the most surefire thing in this draft. So again, there's upside here. He could very well not be in the bottom four by season's end, and we're completely wrong. But his team is improving for sure. Let's go to number 12.
So for number 12, keep in mind that we said we had kind of had a top four, we had a bottom four, and then that middle eight, it's kind of muddy.
It's really tough from here.
It's really tough. But I threw the Steelers in at number 12. I'm trying to figure out, which direction they're going, and they seem to be falling rather quickly. He did add Puka. I get that. But to me, there's just too many minuses, and we're going in the wrong direction. Right now, he's got 3 first-round draft picks in 2025. But we're talking about 2024 right now. And I don't know. The more and more I studied it, the more and more it just kept on falling down and down to me. So we'll see what Jim does with the team. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he gives Nick some competition this year. But by golly, my heart was there. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely some weird moves. But I think you built a pretty dang good roster, so I did not have him this low. And again, this is where it gets very, very difficult. From 12 to 5.
Yep.
Roll a 7-sided die. It's very difficult here. So, where I went here is the Jags. I went with the Jags because I still do not believe in his offense. His defense is loaded. He has to what the Raiders have with their receivers is what the Jags have to linebackers.
I find it interesting, and again, this middle eight we are going to disagree with, and you can go either way. But it's interesting that you have him in the bottom of this middle eight because, I don't want to. I'll show my cards, but I have him at the top of that middle eight. Okay, just because of his defensive group and his linebacker core, his offensive core has always been suspect, and he's getting by with his linebacker core and his defense and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He goes and he gets 2 years ago, Dalton Kincaid falls to him, and now this year Brooke Bowers falls to him. And it's like, holy cow, 2 years in a row, the number one tight end's falling to him, and the other owners, we can't let you can't let that happen. The Jags are too good of a team to be letting that happen. So I've got him later on in the show, a little bit higher up, but we can disagree.
Yeah, this one was really, really tough. I do like that Bowers pick. I like Tyjae Spears upside a lot. I think McLaughlin could do some damage if Javonte gets hurt. He's got good depth at offense. We talked about who are the 6 starting offensive players you're putting out there. And in my opinion, none of these guys are in a regular fantasy draft higher than 4th rounders. So is there potential for this to go way higher than 12? Absolutely. This one was tough. This one was really tough for me. His defense is insane, probably the best defense in the league. But it's a bottom tier offense for me, and you still got to put 6 offensive players on.
But he could be running a triple tight end offense out there.
It's gonna
be in a tight end premium league.
Yeah, I know. It's a Kincaid, Bowers, and Andrews. I know. Yeah. I could be way wrong on this one. This was one of the hardest ones for me because he's been either in the playoffs or right on the outside looking in every year. So I kind of feel like I'm throwing shade at him. I'm not trying to. This section was very difficult. So that's my 12.
All right, number 11 for me. I got the LA Chargers. In his auction draft, he did spend $13 million on Kittle. That was a good pickup. Eric Kendricks, he paid another $16 million for him. Most amazing thing is he had back-to-back picks in this year's draft, picks 105 and 106. Took Coleman and Thomas. I like both of those receivers, especially both where they fell. Playing in Buffalo and playing in Jacksonville. So again, it's a good team. I think it's potentially better than it was last year. But for me, he fell in at 11.
Yeah, I have him a little bit higher. But yeah, this is just where it gets real muddy. My number 11 I have as the Patriots. I agreed with these guys that this was probably the strongest division last year. Yep. And I think this team got worse. So I'm not I love some of these here. Like obviously CD's gonna go nuts. I think the Bengals are gonna start slow again. And Burrow's has an injury history now, and he's only got Taysom Hill behind him. So that could be concerning. Mixon I don't know what to think about Mixon with the Texans right now. Like that whole that whole offense is upside, but I feel like Mixon's on the backside of his prime, and I just don't know what to expect out of him. I'm not expecting 300 points.
Yeah, well, if he's on the backside, $25 million is a bit much, but
that's a boatload
for a running back. But it's interesting that you put him there at 11. I actually have the Patriots in at 10, so I'm pretty close to you on that one.
Yep.
So I put Patriots in at 10. Their big free agent signing on the year was $6 million for Justin Fields, which I later found out he traded to you, and that's your backup now. Yeah. But again, he had no first round pick this year. So I had him coming in at 10.
My number 10 we've talked about, and it's the Steelers. Yeah, you built a good roster. Puka's a good ad. Um, I don't understand tagging Kyler Murray when you have the most valuable contract in the league. Um, but what do I know? I don't pay his league fee. He's allowed to run his league as he wishes.
For what it's worth, I'll take ownership on that. I told him to tag him. Okay,
Oh, that's right.
I told him to tag him. It's a 1 year deal. It's not
Mhm.
that big of a deal to me. Kirk Cousins is going to get hurt. Okay. Kirk Cousins is not a 16, 17 game quarterback. He has shown that year in and year out, year out. And then you're stuck with, as Jordan Love, best quarterback at, point per dollar. There is no better return than having a quarterback on a minimum salary of almost. But, if there's a sophomore slump, you got Kyle Murray to fall back on. And to me, you got 3 starting quarterbacks there for $25 million. Pay a little bit more for Murray. I know it looks out of balance, but that's previous owner talk right now. So I'm not going to bash him on it because I'm the one that said it and
Gotcha.
told him to go that way. But that's the way I play it. But he's not running it the way that I run it. So washing my hands of that.
Yeah, I remember you saying that too. I forgot about that. Yeah, I think that money could have been better served probably helping his running back depth, but um all right, so that was my 10. So now it's your number 9.
My number 9 was the Browns. Um, I had to slow down the Browns and Dan. Every time that I look at his team is constantly evolving around and moving. He trades more players and picks than what I've got underwear going through the laundry. So his big picks right now were Boza and Warner through the auction draft.
Mhm.
Trades. He just picked up Devontae Smith, an ex-Steeler guy that I'm high on. But he had Puka. He traded Puka away. Why you would trade Puka away on what was that, a seventh round um, uh,
7th round
payroll,
salary.
a
Yeah.
seventh round salary? I mean, just I don't know, but Dan is Dan. Dan makes a lot of trades. He likes to trade those picks because he doesn't like to draft at the draft. So I had him in at number 9.
Um at 9 I have the Chargers who we talked about.
Yeah.
Um I think his team is better this year. But he's still got me and Sean to deal with. So and actually I will say uh, Jared and I have both set our lineups. Obviously it's Thursday, but earlier in the week I noticed that he was actually coming out, and you can say what you want about projections, but he was actually coming out as a favorite against me this week.
He's an
So
18.8. He's an
a,
almost 19-point favorite on you.
a big favorite, I
Yeah.
might add. Yes. So I still we talked about this before. A lot of websites are very conservative with rookie projections. And I think if Caleb Williams is anything, then he's going to way outperform his projections. And so I will take those with somewhat of a grain of salt until we find out what he can do at the pro level. But his team definitely has improved. So,
Mhm.
um, number 8.
Number 8. Number 8. This I had the Jets, Braxton and the Jets, and I know that he won the AFC East last year, which was the toughest conference that there was. But he didn't do a whole lot of improvements. So he's got the core coming back. But he added T.J. Edwards in the auction for about $23 million. He didn't have a first round pick or a second round pick. Paid those for traded him to the previous Steelers owner for Laporta. Of course, I'd rather have Laporta back than those 2 draft picks, but that's just me. But I just, to me, that AFC East is still going to be very tough. And I don't think that the Jets did enough to keep up with the Bills and the Dolphins, who we'll talk about later. So, and I had Braxton falling in at number 8.
I agree with you on all points because I have the Jets at 8, and it's also because I have 2 other AFC East teams ahead of him.
Yep. So who you got sitting at 7? Well, I guess I'll just go to 7 then.
Yep.
I got to talk about the KC Chiefs sitting at 7. Got your big acquisition. Of course, you let Purdy go. Not going to pay big bucks to a quarterback, but you went out and got Caleb Williams. Round team again. It's an improved team, but aren't all teams supposed to be improved over last year? So, I got you sitting at number 7. If it's any consolation, I got you second in the conference.
Well, that's fair. I still struggle with whether I actually improved this team or not. Going from Purdy to Williams, I'm not going to get top 5 production out of Caleb Williams. Not this year. In the future, maybe, but not this year.
No, but you're saving $14 million.
I am saving a lot of money on him. My running back depth is probably better than it's been. And is that a lot of depth? No, it's not, but it's better. I've always ran 5 wide when I could, and that has worked for me. But I do like my linebackers are very weak. I admit that, but I am very interested to see how Jack Campbell does this year. And I think Jerome Baker could have a bounce back year in Seattle.
Well, if you're interested in Jack Campbell, I don't know if you pay any attention to the NFC, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking in the NFC, but Jack Campbell just got traded in the NFC for a ransom.
I saw that.
Detroit Lion fan just paid a bunch for him, but got his homeboy. He's happy. Shout out to Jordan and his new linebacker, but he got who he wanted. Paid a lot for it. So.
Also, due to Matt Milano's injury, we're going to find out if Dorian Williams is worth a damn.
Yep.
Also, interesting note. Do you remember how I got Jack Campbell?
I do. I
traded you for that pick.
You did. I traded back thinking that, hey, Mike's not going to take a linebacker here. I can move back, pick up another, and you freaking you stole my linebacker I wanted. I had him on the top of my list. So
nice. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was probably maybe too early for a middle linebacker, but it was worth a shot. So
I had him in that draft where he was supposed to go. So I was going to take him. I didn't think you were. That's why I was going to sneak in an extra pick.
Nice. So that makes me feel a little better. All right. So my number 7 is the Browns. He's going to have more trades up his sleeve the rest of the year. So what you see now is nowhere close to what his team is going to look like in December. And so if he's able to improve it through trades, then I think 7 is probably low. I could see him, reaching the playoffs. So I've got the Browns at 7. Your number 6.
Number 6, I got the Jags. We talked about them a little bit earlier. I love his defense. He's built his team on defense. Again, stud tight ends continue to fall into his lap. So, we already talked about him a little bit ago, but I've got the Jags sitting at 6. And, Eric's been a playoff contender, each of the 2 years we've been in the league. So, you can't fault him on that.
Yeah. That was probably the one that was the hardest for me to pick. I'm not loving the Bucs this year. I don't think Baker can repeat what he did, but I love the Jaden Daniels pick. In middle of the second round, I legitimately believe Jaden Daniels could put up better stats than Caleb Williams as early as this year.
Well, And if
These,
he gets production like what Stroud did last year in his rookie year, I
yeah.
mean, that could be ridiculous. So
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I just expect him to get a lot of rushing attempts. All right. So my number six, at least I don't have to feel like I told everybody that I'm objective. I put myself one spot higher than Dave did. I put myself at the number six. I barely missed the playoffs the first year. I made the playoffs and at least won a game last year. Is my team better? I think it has better depth. I don't know if my starters are better. Letting go of a top five quarterback was an arduous decision. I do not believe he is going to continue being a top five. But Caleb has the ceiling to do that. I don't know if he's got the brain to do that, but I was willing to save the money to find out. I I had to find out. I think Mostert has pretty sneaky value here at 6.5 million. I know he's not going to get 23 touchdowns again, but he's still going to gobble up those goal line attempts because Achan is a stud, but they're going to use him as more of a gadget player this year. He's going to get the ball in open space, meaning lots of Mostert plunging the ball into the end zone in one of the most explosive offenses in the league. So I actually really like my Mostert value this year.
keep smoking, keep drinking that Kool Aid, Mike. It's good stuff.
We'll see. We'll see. I will say the other value I loved was picking up Denitro Autry, and then he's suspended for
Spend it.
PEDs. Ah, that one hurts. Yes, I know I can taxi him, but I don't necessarily need the cap relief right now, so I'm not worried about it. I'll do it next week.
He was taking more than his Flintstone vitamins.
Yes, man. And that one was rough. He was excellent with the Titans last year. I had to get my Donald replacement, and I just thought the value was insane for him. And there goes that value.
Yep.
But Jaron Reed is perennially the most underrated defensive tackle, but in fantasy. All right, here you go. I'm done talking about my team. Let's go
Number
number
five.
five. Again, at least I was only one spot higher than
You were
you. So
close. You were close. And,
yeah,
and again,
there you
that,
go.
that middle eight, they
It's tough.
fluctuate just a little bit. So
Yeah.
number five, I went with Dustin and his Titans. You know, Dustin won the first year in our league. He was a playoff team last year. So Dustin puts good teams together year
Yeah.
after year. And, you know, looking at his team, his linebacker core has improved. He's got Dotson, drafted Colson and Wilson, real good draft picks. So I think that was an area of need for him, and he saw that, he addressed it. So you know, I got Dustin the Titans in at number five.
I've got him a bit higher than
Okay.
you. He probably has the best backfield in the league. Well, not entirely. He has the best three-headed monster. This Etienne, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker trio. That's pretty sick. I like that a lot. And he's got Big Daddy Patrick Mahomes to go with it. So I think he's paying a bit too much for his quarterback, but he's won a Super Bowl and I don't. And I like to get value at quarterback. So it's whatever. It's different philosophies. And he's got Justin Jefferson, who had the worst season of his career last year. Like he's all he's he's gonna score at least like 150 points more than this right here. Like, although I'm a little bit concerned about Sam Darnold being their everyday
But the
QB.
one concern I do have on Dustin's team is that he has probably spent too much on Nick's favorite player, Trey Lance, there. So we'll see if that ever plays out. And
That
Nick
you are correct.
ever gets his gratification that Trey becomes the football player that Nick thinks he is.
I agree with you. That is definitely 1.125 million more than he should be paying for Trey Lance. uh, all right. So Titans were your five. My five is the Dolphins. Now this was the highest scoring team in the league last year, and he even picked up Saquon
He did.
Barkley since last year. So this team has gotten better. I'm starting to actually wonder why I've only got him at 5. But this is a playoff team regardless, is what we're both saying. Assuming no crazy major injuries. He's even got good linebackers down here. This is a good team. You got to watch out for Rich.
Yep. And I will just say that I've got him higher than 5. We'll talk about him when he gets there. If you want to go back to a little bit of the projections, I was watching people as they were setting up their lineups, and Rich was one of the early ones to set his lineup. And he was forecasting 304 points. He was the only one that I saw over that 300 benchmark plateau there. So a lot of power players on this team. I'll talk about them later because I have them higher up yet.
Yeah, and Chase Brown could be real sneaky there too. I'm probably too low on him, but it's a good team.
But we're getting into that top 4 or 5, which are like really, really tough to start to say who is who, and any of these top 4 or 5 can fluctuate and should be there at the end of the year.
Who's your 4?
Who's my 4? And this one's tough. I put the Bills here, but I think Jeremy and the Bills, he's got one of the most solid teams. I love the fact that he's got a young, cheap quarterback in Stroud who is solid on a $3 million salary. He's got first-round picks. He's picked up Benson and Worthy. He's added Jamar Chase. He's added Franklin Zaire. He has got all the pieces to be he is a strong team. Okay. But for me, this is a team that can go deep in the playoffs. Last year he just had some really bad beats. I mean, he had the highest one of the highest points per game averages in the league. But I think he finished 3rd or 4th in the conference. Just a bunch of bad beats last year took him down in the win-loss column. But by golly, he's a solid team, and part of me wants to say I probably put him a little low, but he's my number 4. But he's a solid 4, and he could very easily be one of the top ones higher than that yet.
I agree with you, and that's why I got him higher. My number 4 is the Titans, so I only have him one spot higher than you do. But yeah, Dustin is proven to be a threat every single year.
Yep.
Number 3.
Oh, number 3. It hurts me to say this, but I had Nick and his Bengals sitting at number 3. And there's still, still a lot of love for the AFC North from where I come from. I had him number 3, thought about moving him around after this Bijan trade, but didn't want to give him that much credit. I love the fact that he's got McCaffrey and Bijan, the NFC owner who has those same 2. I mean, he followed the NFC owner who did that also. So kudos for him of spying on my roster. But he's still got A.J. Brown. He's solid. Yeah. The bad part about it is I think he's playing now in a weak AFC North. So he should easily go 6-0 in that conference unless somebody's going to challenge him, but I'm not seeing him. So I got him ranked as number 3.
I have got him higher. So number 3 is where I have the Bills. I think I agree that he got some terrible scheduling luck last year, had some fluke losses, and just has insane depth and value all the way up and down this roster. And if it weren't for my number 1 and 2s, I maybe even would have him at 1. I think this Nico Collins contract is insane. This guy is going to be a wide receiver 1 this year.
It's ridiculous.
I expect Chase to start really slow because he hasn't played football in who knows how long. But then he's also got Xavier Worthy, who's going to be very valuable here in 3 months. Yep. So this team was good last year, barely missed the playoffs, and got much better. This I really feel like the Bills are big time a team to watch out for.
Yep.
I mean, I don't honestly see any weaknesses on this team. He's got good linebacker depth. He's got tons of uh, wide receiver depth. Um, Running back, but you don't need to use them. Throw 5 wide out there like I've been doing for like 2 years now. So, that's you can win leagues running 5 wide. So, this team's crazy dangerous. Number 2, who do you got?
Number two, I put the Dolphins as number two. Again,
Mm,
like I said earlier, he's forecasting his schedule was showing that he was forecasting 304 for this week, which is
yeah,
insane. He was the only one over 300. We talked about him a little bit earlier. He added Barkley to his roster. He's still got the core of Josh Allen. JT is his other running back. He's got Allens and Evans as his wide receivers. He's still got TJ Watt. He's solid up and down. He was a big scorer last year. Was probably, in my mind, probably the surprise team of last year.
yeah.
Went from middle of the pack to one of the really stronger teams. So kudos to Rich. But right now I've got him ranked as my number two team right now.
Yeah, and I probably have them too low. I mean, this team is really good. A couple points I'll make. I do think Chase Brown here could be very sneaky and have really good value down the stretch. I've probably been undervaluing Deontay Johnson because there's no way Bryce Young can be as terrible as he
As
was
it
last
was.
year. That poor kid walked into a dumpster fire. So if they improve the slightest bit, then every player on that offense should be better. And Deontay is a solid wide receiver. Additionally, I expect I don't think Keenan Allen has it anymore. I really think Odunzi's should be getting if they're gonna run 2 tight end sets with 2 wide like they did all preseason, it needs to be Odunzi 70% on that other side, in my opinion, by November, or they still don't have the right coach. Because Allen just looks very slow, can't get any separation. And yes, I'm saying this about the guy that leads the NFL in yards or receptions per game. Do you realize he leads NFL history? His receptions per game, it's Keenan Allen. But he just looks so slow. He can't get away from anybody. Um, Maybe that veteran presence will allow him to be in the right spot when Caleb starts to scramble. But to me, they gotta get Rome on that field quick. But anyway, couple points about those guys. I feel like I'm very different on some of those players than other people are. So I want to make those comments. This team's really good though, and I probably had them too low at 5. All right, number 2, it's the Broncos. Until he does not make the Super Bowl, he won the Super Bowl last year, and then he was Super Bowl runner-up the first year. And yes, he's stuck in my division, damn it. But and the amazing thing is how he did it. You remember we talked about this. Justin Herbert got hurt late in the
Yep.
season. Dawn streamed a different quarterback for every playoff matchup and then still won the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me with that? How can you not put him 1-2 just considering all of that? Even with losing Saquon, I was not putting him lower than 2. I wasn't doing it.
So well, it's interesting. You got him as number two. I actually put Sean in his Broncos number one. A lot of the same reasons as what you got.
Yeah.
He's last year's Super Bowl winner, and he's the runner-up from the year before. He's got some type of voodoo magic that pulls out some quarterback out of his ass that can put up
Yeah.
points and get wins. So until somebody knocks him off and eliminates him out of the playoffs, he's going to be at the top of the my power rankings anyways until he starts losing.
Yeah.
His big acquisitions this year. He traded for Quay Walker. He got Logan Wilson, so he added some linebacker depth. He didn't have the depth in the linebackers that he had in the years past. Sean is going to do what Sean's going to do, and we got 15, 31 more owners that have got to figure out how to start beating this guy and letting that championship ring go somewhere else.
I'm telling you. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I won the division last year. He did this as the wild card. So you have to watch out for this dude. He's always puts a good team out there. Uh, I a couple points about some players. You already said that Kirk Cousins doesn't finish seasons. So is Michael Penix Sean's X factor here? I mean, because I will tell you, I love Penix's skills. I was just, where is he going to go? And he's old, but who cares? Quarterbacks play till they're 40 anymore. Who cares if he's 29 or whatever the heck he is?
Well, my fear is that, for one, Cousins is on a 2-year contract in Atlanta. If Cousin gets hurt, Penix comes in, has success. Oh, there's going to be a huge controversy there with who the quarterback is. Am I ready to hand over the reins to him yet? No. Right now, I think the Falcons need a veteran quarterback,
Sure.
just to bring some leadership to that team, some stability. Get the ball to the playmakers. No more decoys. That head coach is gone. But yeah, I do like Penix, and the fact that he freaking drafted him in the 4th round. That's a steal.
Yeah.
I like it.
I love Penix's arm talent. His accuracy and his ball speed to me are just on point. Um, just like Justin Herbert was, and he's a stud, just like CJ Stroud was, and he's a stud. Stroud, all he had was arm talent. He's an idiot. Well, his arm talent made him easily the best rookie in the league last year. So I am all about QBs coming in with arm talent, and Penix has it. So I'm if they give him a shot, I think he could be good this year. And it would be hilarious if Penix led him to the Super Bowl. All right, all right, all
It's your
right, all
number
right.
one.
My number one is the Bengals. Now, the Bengals have not won this league before. He also has not been to the Super Bowl before. But I want to tell you a quick little story about a previous fantasy football league I was in. Nick was in that league. So was Jared. It was a 10-man league. It was Saquon Barkley's rookie year. It was after that year where he blew it up. We had a 2-keeper league. I kept Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. And everybody's like, "Oh my god." I didn't even win the league that year. But in that off season, the league voted to do away with keepers. Conveniently, after I had at that time RB 1 and 2, okay, in a 10-man league. Now, you can say whatever you want about the exchange of the picks and the players. I won't make any disparaging marks about the people involved in the trade, but in a 16-man league, when one player has RB1 and arguably RB3, that is a massive advantage. Okay. And all of the Falcons offense has upside now because they got rid of their idiotic head coach and they actually have a couple quarterbacks that can spread the ball around. So I'm sorry, this gives him a gigantic advantage. And it was done within division. I
Shame on the Steelers. You cannot get your competition that much ammunition and expect to beat them. But
Bijan's going to go off this year, and McCaffrey is going to do what he does. And Nick is always competitive. He's made the playoffs every year. He's obviously the commissioner, so he knows what the heck he's doing. And we just gave him more ammunition. I'm very concerned about this team right here. And his linebacker depth is always solid. He's always had good depth, but now his top tier talent is even stronger. I this team might, and Jalen Wright is going to be scary. I remember when he traded up for that pick, and I'm like, damn it, Nick, this might be a good pick.
you got to remember who he traded up with too.
I don't remember.
The Steelers.
We traded with Jim. That's right.
Yes, yes.
That's right. Oh my gosh. No, wow. I was not that high on Jalen Wright back when we were doing the draft, but as the offseason has progressed, Jalen Wright has definitely moved up my board a bit. But Nick always puts a dangerous product on that field, and he's got RB1 and arguably 3. That's a recipe for disaster for everybody else in the AFC. I'm very concerned.
Any NFC teams listening to this right now, pay no attention to RB1 and 3 who may have them in the NFC. Do not listen to any of that. Does not apply to the NFC.
No, I know you have Bijan, but you have McCaffrey on that side too. Oh
I
my
do.
gosh.
And I have Jamar Chase.
Oh
So
wow. Wow.
if Chase decides to play football. So,
Yeah.
but pay the man.
No kidding.
So,
well, there you go, guys. That is our AFC power rankings. This will definitely be the longest show that we do all season because we usually rip through the matchups in like about 20, 30 minutes. But, we haven't done this since last season, and there was a lot to discuss here, and it was a lot of fun. So
I've enjoyed it. Mike, I'm looking forward to doing some recaps next week. We'll see how that goes, going through 16 different games that we have to go through. We'll have to go through those rather quickly, but it'll be interesting to see how things start to play out. So it was a good time putting this together for the AFC power rankings. Like I said at the beginning, I'm sure that there are 16 owners that don't like the target on their back or don't like the spot where they would be. Just win, baby. Just win, and that'll change your rankings.
Yep. We're not speaking gospel, and we're not claiming we know more than anybody
Nope.
else in this league. We're just a couple guys that said, hey, let's try to do some recaps each week. And why not power rankings? Because it was fun to do the research and see what I'm up against.
And if you don't like it, you can come and join us. Do your own.
Yeah, we welcome you. It's very easy. You can actually have 10 different cameras on this screen that you see here. So there you go. So don't be shy. But until someone else steps up, it'll continue to be at least 2 or 3 of us. So
well, I appreciate you, Mike, for leading tonight, and best of luck to the MDFL in our season number 3. Best of luck to all the new NFC owners. Any questions with who to play, who to start, questions coming on? If it's new, ask somebody. We're here to help. But yeah, let's get this season rolling tonight.
Yep, absolutely. Tons of people willing to help if you have questions about rules, bylaws, any of that stuff. We want this to be enjoyable and not misery. And I will tell you, being that this is my first Dynasty League and I'm in year 3, it is by far the most fun fantasy experience that I'm in. I thoroughly enjoy everything involved going into this league. It is a blast. So looking forward to this season. Okay, that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for anybody that watched live. I see that there were a few of you, and thanks anybody that decides to watch this later. We're going to keep doing our recaps throughout the season, and don't forget those happen at Monday night at 7 before the Monday night game.
Yep.
Anything else, Dave?
That's all I've got. Best of luck to the other 30 owners. Frick, Panthers. Take the season, take the weekend off. You don't have to start your starters. Take it easy. You can worry about the season next year. I guess a little bit trash talking starting early, but down with the Panthers this week. So
there you go. I got my uphill battle with the Broncos, but let's not forget I won the division last year. I am the defending AFC West champion. That doesn't mean anything, but it's something I can say.
He's got the ring that everybody wants. So
yeah, I know. I remember you used to use that as bragging rights too, so I'm stealing it and I'll keep doing it.
And I still will, because the NFC or the AFC North was mine.
I love it. Awesome, guys. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next Monday.
All right. See you guys. Thanks, Mike.
Yep. See you, man.